name is Tiara, and I'm from the east side of Detroit. I was born and raised on that side of town, and I went to a Catholic school. Growing up, it seemed like I was just a regular child, but in kindergarten, I knew something was different about me. I knew something was strange about me. I began to like what I saw. I started liking the same sex. And so I remember in kindergarten, I used to tell my childhood friend that I was a boy. I used to tell her that my parents didn't know it because I had a crush on her. And even being that young, I knew it was wrong because my parents were taking me to church. But still, I liked what I liked. And so today I can understand how people could think that they were born that way, because in kindergarten, you're so young. And a lot of people believe that when you're that young, you don't deal with demons. You don't have thoughts like that, because when you're youthful and when you're a little child, you're considered pure. But the reality is that we're born in sin and shaped in iniquity. And so out of the womb, I was a sinner. And so as I began to get older, going to high school, I actually began to act on it. But before I began to act on it, I had relationships over the phone. So it went from internet to now telephone, dating guys as a cover-up. I never really were into them, never really liked them, was barely attracted to them. It was something I just did not like. I did not like men at all. I dated, I had boyfriends, I brung them around my family just to seem normal because I wasn't normal. And I can even remember, even as a child, not to jump around, but I would even pray and I would ask God to take this away from me, but he didn't. I'm thinking to myself that that was how God made me, and that's how I was supposed to stay, because he didn't take it away. And even with that, my mom used to teach us how to pray. And she said, listen to your first thought. So my first thought was, I'm going downstairs. And downstairs in a little child's mind is hell. I would say, God, I don't want to go downstairs. That was my main prayer. And so in high school, I began to get in a relationship. And in that relationship, it was my first real interaction with a woman. And I thought that I had fallen in love. I knew that it was wrong in my heart, but then I began to justify it, but then I began to know it was wrong. So I'm wrestling. And I can understand why people can be what we run away from in church, which is kind of like bipolar. You're dealing with two different personalities, and I'm creating this person on the inside of me. And so now I'm entangled with two people. And so I'm still trying to be regular. I'm still trying to be normal, but I'm totally in love with the woman. And so from there, I'm having encounters. I'm actually being intimate. I was a virgin towards a guy, but I lost my virginity to a woman. And I didn't even know why, because me and this person didn't even like each other. But then that next year, we loved each other, and we loved very hard. I started to pick up different ways, and I started to pick up different attributes. I started to steal like her. I started to lie like her. I started to drink like her. I started to smoke like her. I started to be like her, to the point where I said, I smell like you. Because that's how close we began to be. And we began to play house. I would be in her basement. She would go to work. I'll be in the bed. And when we were done being intimate, I just felt such a wicked presence that I knew it wasn't God. The lights would be completely off. And I would lay in that bed and I would be afraid for my life, but I just couldn't stop doing what I was doing. I felt a demonic presence. But I still couldn't change because I was so in love. Further on, graduating from high school, I walk into college. And so it gets worse instead of getting better. I ended up accepting a ring, to the point where if it had not been for God, I believe I would be in Arizona married to a woman, because I began to accept that this is my life. And so in my mind, I'm writing letters to my parents, apologizing that my dad wouldn't be able to walk his baby girl down the aisle to a man. Apologizing that my mother would never be a grandmother because I was in love with a woman. There's no way I can reproduce from that relationship. And so from there, something happened. It was a shaking. I began to get more God conscious. I began to get more afraid of hell. I was terrified. It felt like I was always in the cold, because now that I'm in this place, I realized that I didn't have life. I was a walking dead woman. And so it began to pull me down even further and further. And so another woman stepped in the picture. And the thing about that lifestyle is that the deeper you go, the worse you get. It doesn't get better. It looks like it's fun. It looks like people are happy, but you honestly get worse. There's no true love in it. It's a road of heartbreak, disappointments, and ultimately suicide, but eternally damnation. And so being with this woman and being in college, my life is changing for the worse. I'm absolutely going crazy. I'm coming out to people thinking that I'm doing something good. I'm telling them I'm gay. I'm starting to get prideful about it and accept that this is me, but God didn't allow me to get too far. And then one day, I'm laying down and I go back to Marvin Sapp. He saw the best in me. And then I made a decision. I said, Lord, I need to get saved. I gotta get saved because my life is falling in shambles. I want to kill myself. I'm living a double life. I'm sneaking people into my mother's house. I'm being disrespectful. I'm liking women. I'm torn. I gotta get saved. I gotta let this go. It was hard to let it go, but I'm like, I gotta let this go. And God kept on, every time I asked, why is this happening? The only thing that would come in my mind was that prayer. That's the only thing that kept coming into my mind was, I said I was tired. And so that Saturday, I stayed up all night because I was excited. I felt it. I was excited. I said, man, when they open up them church doors, I'm going down there. I was excited. I was so excited that I literally stayed up till about 6 o'clock. And without an alarm clock, I woke up at 8. I woke up like I had slept a full 8 hours. Something was happening to me. Something was coming. It was a change. Something was happening. And so I get up. I asked my friend, I said, what time did church start? She said 9 o'clock. She gave me the wrong time. So I went in right when the pastor was opening up the doors for the church. And I heard a little bit of the end of the message, to the point where I can't even tell you what he preached about. All I knew was that when those doors opened, those doors were open for me. And so when he opened up the doors and asked, does anyone want to be saved and give their life to Jesus, all I know was that my body lifted up and my body turned as if somebody was instructing me how to get up and how to turn, and my feet just moved. It moved, and it was a long walk because I sat at the side of the church, but my body, I just knew. And I got up and I walked around and I made it to the front of the church, and I just broke down. And from there, my life has never been the same. Things have come at me. Things have tried to try me. But when I say that God delivers, he delivers. And it's not a fake deliverance. He completely took the desire and the taste out of my mouth to the point where he put in natural affection. And that's how I know that when you are in Christ, old things are passed away and all things become new. He had mercy on me in the midst of the club. While I'm sitting there, he didn't have to say anything. But now I know for sure that it's not his will that man perish, but that all men come to repentance. And there is absolutely nowhere that God will not reach you. If I know that he had mercy on me in the club with a drink in my hand and told me that this is not who I am, then I know for sure that anybody practicing that lifestyle can come out and not be afraid that they won't like the opposite sex. That was another thing that kept me locked in. I was afraid that because I didn't like men, that I wouldn't like men. But God put that natural affection back in me to the point where when I look at a woman, that's my sister and that's it. That's all. There's no desire. And so I know that you could be truly delivered from a lifestyle of lesbianism. You can be delivered from a lifestyle of homosexuality. You can be delivered from perversion, no matter what type it is. Even if you're dealing with a heterosexual couple and you just can't stop having sex, you just can't stop looking at pornography, you just can't stop being what you think is you. You can stop because that's really not who you are. And I know from experience that not only did he take me away from the lifestyle of being a lesbian, but he took me away and put his words in my mouth to preach the gospel. And that's how I know that there is purpose attached to anyone, no matter how far someone think that they are, no matter how deep, no matter where you're at, even if you're in prison, if the call is attached to your life, you gotta surrender. Because there's a purpose and there's another vessel for you to pour into, all for God's glory, to know that he is good. And so this is a victory testimony that homosexuality does not have to be your identity. No matter what you're in, no matter how deep, God can take you away from it. There's no such thing as being gay and being holy. There is no such thing as that. There's no such thing as being gay, holy, but you're not practicing it. There's no such thing. That is deception. God will take you and really clean you and take it out of you, because that's what he desires, for you to be completely delivered with no residue. And so I know if he did it for me and if he did it for someone else, he can do it for anybody. And that is the truth of this reality, is that God is a deliverer from whatever it is that you're caught into, no matter how tight, no matter how much you think is you. He'll change you and give you purpose and put his word in you. And someone else can be blessed by what God has taken you from.
He saw the best. He saw the best.